I haven't looked at these slides in probably 25 years. It was 1994. I had just moved to Vashon Island a few months before, and I had gone out to photograph, as I often did, early in the morning. Got to the beach and heard this sound I had never heard except at SeaWorld. And it was a live orca passing on the beach, and the spouting was actually landing on the beach. It was that close. And I've got a tripod, and I'm looking very frustrated, and suddenly I hear someone shouting, "Do you want to ride?" And before I could even answer, he was pulling in to pick me up. And I waded out about to my thighs, climbed in the boat. He said, "Look out for hooks." And we headed off in an adventure that lasted about 4 hours. And again, I had never seen one in the wild, no less photographed them, but I got shots of a lifetime. I would say the breaching orca, which made the cover of the magazine 30 years later, is probably the most important photograph I ever took, because they were seen, photographed at a time that the scientists said they never come to this area, and I had proof they were there in September. The key frame became powerful, is powerful enough to have defeated an international gravel mine. It was a Japanese company, huge horsepower behind it. Even the governor was in favor of the project. And a small citizens group with the orca photo and a lot of other power behind them was able to defeat it. Finally, one judge said, "No more. It ends in my court." Life-changing in the history of the island, and actually all of Puget Sound, because it started the preservation of the Sound, the Salish Sea, rolling in the right direction in that court. And we know the orca picture was part of that.
I think they're really powerful. It's a moment in time that you can capture, that you never get back. And then it's also memories. Like I said, I've got some photos on my wall from our trips, and I love to see them every day. Reminds me of a great time we had.
To me, the power of photography is capturing details that may not be obvious at first. We walk past objects, we're running past objects that we don't notice.
The angle you shoot at, the time of day, the weather conditions, you can influence what somebody feels when they see a photograph. And that's part of telling a story and the story you want to tell. That's power. I mean, that's incredible that you can translate and change people's actions like that. I'm a still photographer, but before that I'm an educator. University of Washington, it's been, I have to think carefully, I would say 8 years now. And then I realized there were other programs going on, and I transitioned over to the youth and teen programs. And that's allowed me to work with middle school and high school. And then I realized there was the Osher Lifelong Learning Institute. They allowed me to work with retirees. So I'm now working with all three programs and loving it, because I get that full range of inspiration and also just fabulous students at all levels.
First impression, fun guy. His enthusiasm is contagious, knowledgeable, and really energetic. I mean, I knew right away that we were going to have a fun time. It was awesome.
Ray is the most welcoming person you could get. He has his aura, how he communicates to all of us. He does this in a way that also gets us as students to interact with each other, to learn to become friends with each other.
When I walked into class that first day and saw how Ray interacted with the class and how excited he was to be there, that was, instantly put a certain mood and feeling into that class that this is going to be fun. The person who's leading this wants to be here, which, as we all know, is one of the biggest factors about learning.
He's particularly good at having a group of people who are at very different places in their ability in photography, and being able to have all of us in one class and have it work for all of us. And I think that's a gift.
All my students teach me things. When I look at youth, they are so uninhibited, particularly the middle school students, will take chances that the retirees and the certificate students will never, ever take. The seasoning of the retirees, I can bring things I learned from them and realize from them and their wisdom, lifelong learning that I can bring back to the youth. And then the certificate program, I hope that all the students benefit from both ends of the spectrum.
I was a little intimidated to even take a photography class because I take all my pictures with my phone. But he's like, never say just use your phone. Phones take, fabulous pictures now.
Do not look down your nose at the smartphone. On the contrary, get out there and use it. Make a difference with it.
Yeah, I didn't feel intimidated at all once we started the class. It was awesome. That's why we signed up for a second one.
I think confidence is very important, and I think equally important is explaining to people that the most accomplished artists are insecure. We're creating something we share with people, and there's a lot of, you're intimidated. Will someone like it?
I cared more about what other people thought about a photo than what I cared about it myself. That fear was taken away. He brought attention to a few images that I showed where he clearly could see something there. Up until that point, I hadn't realized that this was something my eyes could see quite well, and I was capturing it on camera. What Ray was doing was basically bringing out my creativity, which I really didn't know was inside me. I'm making a lot more observations now because I'm much more focused on what I'm seeing through my lens on the camera.
His push to be like, go try this, go try that. There's all these different things you can do here. And I felt very comfortable always in asking them questions. Started to see how you can get creative with things behind the lens. Started to understand how a camera works at the most basic level, just in those first few days. That still to this day is the only formal photography education I've gotten.
I want them to feel like we're equals. And yes, maybe I know a bit more at this point just because of age, but it doesn't mean I'm necessarily smarter or more accomplished.
The biggest thing that Ray unlocked for me was that I was able to take my passion for cars, and at the time a new passion for photos, blend them together. And fast forward to today, after this I'll go to a photo shoot and take photos of a car, and that's my work. And that's a really beautiful thing.
We almost owe it to everyone to document what's going on in our time to share with the future. We create history.
There was protests happening around City Hall, and I was there to just capture what was happening. Nothing specific in mind or anything, and I got this one photo where all their signs, there's probably 30 signs, were backlit from the sun, and so you could visibly see everything that they had written on their signs. And those weren't happy messages. They were messages of anger and sadness and a lot of things. And so being able to capture that, and that's on a whole spread in the yearbook, and that was something that happened that year of high school. So that was something that was important, and that also kind of was a precursor to what started to happen with photography for me in college as well. Right now, I am the photo editor at the award-winning Los Angeles Loyola at Loyola Marymount University.
When you photograph something today that seems ordinary, tomorrow it's extraordinary, just because of the passage of time.
I took a picture when my mom was dying of our two hands. I love that picture. Those are kind of the pictures that are my most favorite.
True photographers out there are not afraid to ultimately have an image that is emotional, that is different. I never considered myself an artist. I was always just an engineer. That's what I am.
I always have people say I'm not an artist. You are if you're composing pictures, if you're making pictures, if you're trying to tell a story to me. You're an artist.
He is telling you to your face that you are now an artist. And that for me was the moment that I really, it was pretty special to hear that. It brings a lot of joy to me as my own person in my place in life to be proud of what I'm doing.
I got this email and I thought it was spam. I just didn't believe it. It talked about a Teaching Excellence Award. The fact that it was UW made me stop, but I thought it's still got to be spam. This came out of nowhere, no warning. When your work is acknowledged, we all know it just feels so good. We work because we love it. We work because we want to serve the university, but more than that, our clientele, the students. It's fantastic. It's the passion that I see in my students. It's the lights that I see come on in the minds of my students. It's the most rewarding thing I've ever done in my life, and I've done it for a long time. Continuous learning is absolutely critical. We don't want our brains to solidify, if I can put it that way. We all, as we age, have so much to offer. And for some, it's not running for office. It's not volunteering at church on Sunday or a food bank on Thursday. It can be our art. It can make such a difference.